Hi everyone, I'm Casey. Welcome back to our channel. Here, I share outfit ideas, styling tips, and pieces that have worked for me, especially as someone petite who values comfort, ease, and feeling good in what I wear. Paris Couture Week just wrapped up. We've seen the gowns, the drama, the celebrities, and the usual flood of photos from every corner of social media. And while it's easy to get caught up in the beauty and extravagance of it all, I couldn't help but ask, why is this event such a big deal? Why does it happen in Paris and not anywhere else? And what even makes something haute couture in the first place? So I figured, why not take a moment to go back, to understand how it started, why it's held in such high regard, and what makes this one week in Paris feel like the most sacred moment in the fashion calendar. The story begins in the 1800s, and interestingly enough, not with a French designer, but with an Englishman named Charles Frederick Worth. He's often called the father of haute couture, and he truly changed the course of fashion. Before Worth, dressmaking was largely private and anonymous. Seamstresses made garments based on what clients wanted, but Worth flipped that dynamic. He began designing his own visions and presenting them to clients in his Paris salon. He was the first to sew labels into his clothes, and he introduced the idea of showing collections by season. Essentially, he made fashion about the designer's creativity, not just the client's request. His clients included royalty, Empress Virginie of France among them. And over time, his influence helped establish Paris as the center of fashion. What he started was more than just tailoring. It was about identity, artistry, and vision. That's what set the foundation for haute couture. The phrase itself, haute couture, literally means high sewing. And that's exactly what it is. These are garments that are made entirely by hand, or nearly so, using the finest materials available. They're not sold off the rack. They're not mass-produced. They're made for one specific person. And every bead, every seam, every drape is shaped through hours, sometimes even months, of labor. It's fashion at its most intricate, most expensive, and often most experimental. But here's something most people don't realize. You can't just call your collection haute couture. In fact, that term is legally protected by the French government. In 1945, they put official regulations in place to preserve the quality and meaning of haute couture. That responsibility falls to the Chambre syndicale de la haute couture, which was established even earlier, in 1868. They decide which fashion houses are allowed to use the title. It's not just about being famous or having a big brand. You have to follow strict rules. To be recognized as an official haute couture house, a label must have an atelier in Paris with at least 15 full-time staff. They must create made-to-measure garments for private clients and hold at least 2 fittings per piece. And they're required to present a new collection in Paris twice a year, once in January for spring-summer, and once in July for fall-winter. This is what forms Paris Haute Couture Week. So yes, it really does belong to Paris. Not just because it started here, but because Paris continues to uphold its meaning through tradition, law, and artistic standards that aren't found anywhere else. And while the number of people who can afford these clothes is incredibly small, couture still matters. These collections often influence trends that eventually trickle down into ready-to-wear lines. The silhouettes, the colors, the mood, it all begins here. Even if we're not wearing couture ourselves, it shapes the way fashion evolves over time. More than anything though, haute couture keeps the art of craftsmanship alive. It sustains entire industries, embroidery houses, textile artisans, hand-beating specialists, skills that would vanish if not for couture. It's not fast fashion, it's not made for clicks or sales volume, it's slow, considered, and deeply personal. And yes, there's a certain fantasy to it too. Designers get to be bold. They're not bound by practicality or mass appeal. Couture allows them to create something purely imaginative, sometimes theatrical, sometimes poetic. Whether it's a gown that glows using algae or one sculpted entirely from feathers, this is where fashion is allowed to dream. And just last week, Paris reminded us why couture still matters. Monday, July 7th opened with Schiaparelli, where Daniel Roseberry's surrealist vision returned in full force, sculpted corsets, anatomical illusions, and bold gold embellishments. Cardi B arrived in a black velvet couture ensemble with a live raven perched on her arm, making headlines across the globe. Dua Lipa, attending her first Schiaparelli show, turned heads in a petal-trimmed white look that mirrored the runway's romantic surrealism. It was theatrical, unapologetically odd, and unforgettable. Iris van Herpen followed with a show that blurred the line between science and art, featuring a glowing, bioluminescent algae dress that quite literally shimmered as it moved. Each look floated down the runway like it had emerged from another world. George's Hobeka leaned into delicate femininity with pastels, while Imane Ayisi brought African storytelling to couture with fabrics that spoke of heritage and rhythm. Giambattista Valli closed the day with cascading tulle and oversized bows, models gliding through the venue like walking blossoms. Tuesday, July 8th was led by Chanel, celebrating 110 years with a wheat field-inspired set and mohair textures. Florence Welch performed live. At Ashi Studio, Heart Evangelista and Chiara Ferragni sat side by side, each dressed in sharply tailored neutrals. Stéphane Rollin transported the audience to a Greco-Roman fantasy, draped gowns, gold leaf accents, and timeless drama. Wednesday, July 9th brought one of the most anticipated shows of the week, Balenciaga, and Demna's final Haute Couture presentation. It was pared down, intimate, and powerful. Kim Kardashian closed the show wearing Elizabeth Taylor's actual diamond necklace. Isabel Huppert walked the runway. Michelle Yeoh, Katy Perry, and Lorde were also in attendance, each capturing the energy of an era closing and something new beginning. That same day, Elie Saab gave us what he does best: regal, glistening gowns with long trains, illusion necklines, and metallic embroidery. Robert One, meanwhile, added edge, smoke motifs, sharp tailoring, and a hint of chaos beneath the polish. His show proved that newer voices in couture have something equally refined and radical to say. Thursday, July 10th wrapped the week with a playful wink. Victor and Rolf exaggerated proportions, flipped collars over heads, and sent models down the runway with framed garments that looked like abstract art. It was couture with humor, and it worked. Maison Margiela, under Glenn Martens, brought texture and emotion. His debut couture collection was haunting, messy, beautiful. Upcycled fabrics, undone seams, and silhouettes that felt like memories. Rami Al-Ali, the first Syrian designer officially on the Haute Couture calendar, presented a collection called Guardians of Light. Inspired by Syrian architecture and craftsmanship, his work paid tribute to artisans and heritage in the most elegant way. Each house told a different story. Each show reminded us that couture isn't just about the clothes. It's about the people who wear them, the cultures they come from, the ideas they carry, and the ways they leave us with something to remember. It's easy to dismiss couture as impractical or reserved only for the wealthy, but if you look closely, there's a kind of reverence behind it. For tradition, for innovation, for skill, and for beauty. So the next time you scroll through runway photos or wonder why celebrities fly to Paris for shows they're not even walking in, just remember, it's more than a social event. It's the continuation of a legacy that began over 150 years ago. A legacy that still treats fashion as something worth protecting, preserving, and celebrating. And somehow, year after year, Paris remains the city where it all begins.